Last night on The Late Show, Stephen Colbert's sharp jabs at Bill Gates' projects sparked a fiery clash. Insults flew, tempers flared, and Gates ripped off his mic, storming off the set in a viral meltdown that stunned the internet. The studio lights blazed down on The Late Show set, the audience buzzing with anticipation as Stephen Colbert leaned back in his chair, his signature smirk in place. Across from him sat Bill Gates, the billionaire philanthropist, his posture stiff, eyes wary. The crowd had been primed for a lively interview, but no one expected the powder keg that was about to ignite. Colbert, known for his biting wit, wasted no time steering the conversation into treacherous waters. "Bill, welcome back to the show," Colbert began, his tone deceptively warm. "You've been busy saving the world, or so you claim. Let's talk about some of those, let's call them ambitious projects." The audience chuckled, sensing the edge in his voice. Gates offered a tight smile, adjusting his glasses, clearly bracing himself. Colbert dove in. "Take your malaria vaccine push. Billions spent, and yet malaria's still out there, buzzing around like it owns the place. What's the deal? Did the mosquitoes unionize?" The crowd laughed, but Gates's smile faltered. "It's a complex problem, Stephen," he said, his voice measured. "We've made significant progress. Cases are down in many regions." "Progress? Sure," Colbert shot back, leaning forward. "But let's be real, Bill. You're the guy who's supposed to solve everything. I mean, you fixed Windows, right?" "Well, mostly." The audience roared, but Gates's jaw tightened. "The Gates Foundation is tackling systemic issues," he replied, a hint of steel in his tone. "It's not about quick fixes." Colbert wasn't letting up. He pivoted to Gates' education initiatives. "Then there's your Common Core crusade. You poured money into it, convinced you could revolutionize schools. Now teachers are drowning in paperwork, and kids are still failing math. Did you think you could just Control+Alt-Delete the education system?" The crowd's laughter grew sharper, feeding off Colbert's momentum. Gates shifted in his seat, his fingers drumming on the armrest. "Education reform takes time," he said, his voice clipped. "We're learning what works." "Learning what works," Colbert echoed mockingly. "Sounds like a polite way of saying, 'Whoops, my bad.'" The audience erupted, but Gates's face darkened. He leaned forward, his calm facade cracking. "Stephen, you're oversimplifying. These are global challenges. You think you could do better." The challenge hung in the air, and for a moment the studio felt electric. Colbert's eyes gleamed. He'd found his opening. "Oh, Bill, I'm just a comedian, but at least my failures don't cost billions or leave kids stuck in failing schools." The crowd gasped, then cheered, sensing blood in the water. Gates's expression hardened, his lips a thin line. "That's unfair," he said, his voice low. "You're twisting the truth for laughs." "Twisting?" Colbert said, feigning shock. "I'm just reading the headlines, pal. Like your green energy bets, those next-gen reactors you've been hyping. What's the status? Still in the lab while the planet chokes? Maybe stick to software, Bill." The audience's laughter was now tinged with unease, the jabs landing harder than expected. Gates' hands clenched, his knuckles white. "Nuclear energy is critical for the future," he said, his voice rising. "We're closer than you think." "Closer to what? Another expensive flop?" Colbert quipped, his smirk unrelenting. The crowd's reaction was split. Some laughed, others murmured, sensing the tension spiraling. Gates leaned back, his eyes narrowing. "You're good at this, Stephen. Tearing down what you don't understand. What's your plan? More snark?" Colbert grinned, unfazed. "My plan's simple. Call it like I see it. And right now, I see a guy who's great at writing checks but not so great at results." The audience roared, but Gates' face was a mask of barely contained fury. He opened his mouth to respond, then stopped, his hands gripping the armrests. The air crackled with anticipation. What would he say next? Would he fire back? Or was he already on the edge of breaking? The studio's energy was a live wire, the audience hanging on the silence that followed Colbert's latest barb. Bill Gates' hands, still gripping the armrests, trembled slightly, his eyes locked on Colbert's smirking face. The billionaire's composure, so carefully maintained, was fraying at the edges. Colbert, sensing the moment, leaned forward, his voice dripping with mock sincerity. "Come on, Bill. Don't hold back. Tell me I'm wrong. Defend your legacy." Gates' lips parted, and when he spoke, his voice was low, almost dangerous. "You think this is a game, Stephen? You sit here, cracking jokes, while I'm out there trying to fix problems you can't even comprehend." The audience's murmurs grew, some clapping in support, others shifting uncomfortably. Gates pressed on, his tone sharpening. "You mock malaria vaccines, education reform, clean energy, like it's all a punchline. You have no idea what it takes." Colbert's grin didn't waver, but his eyes narrowed, predatory. "Oh, I get it, Bill. It takes money. Lots of it. And you've got that in spades. But let's talk about your global health push. Those vaccine rollouts in Africa. People are still dying, and there's whispers of mismanagement. Did your foundation drop the ball, or is that just another complex problem?" The crowd gasped, the accusation cutting deep. Gates' face flushed, his voice rising. "That's a low blow, Stephen. We've saved millions of lives. You're cherry-picking to make me look bad." "Cherry-picking?" Colbert shot back, his tone mocking. "I'm just asking questions, Bill. Like, what about your pandemic preparedness plans? You warned us for years, but when COVID hit, the world still fell apart. Where was your big fix then?" The audience's laughter was uneasy now, the tension palpable. Gates leaned forward, his voice tight with anger. "I'm not a dictator, Stephen. I can't force governments to act. We pushed for testing, vaccines, things that worked." "Worked?" Colbert interrupted, his voice sharp. "Tell that to the people who lost everything. You were supposed to be the guy with the answers, not the guy saying, 'I told you so.' From your yacht." The crowd erupted, some cheering, others booing, the divide clear. Gates's eyes flashed with fury. "You're twisting it again," he said, his voice shaking. "You think you can sum up a global crisis in a soundbite? You're out of your depth." Colbert leaned back, unfazed, his smirk widening. "Out of my depth? Bill, I'm not the one sinking under the weight of my own hype. Like your AI ventures, pouring billions into tech that's still playing catch-up. Did you think you could just buy your way to the next big thing?" The audience laughed, but Gates' expression was pure steel. "AI is transforming lives," he said, his voice cold. "You wouldn't understand innovation if it hit you in the face." The crowd oohed, a spark of defiance from Gates igniting their excitement. But Colbert was relentless. "Innovation? Or overpromise? Your track record's spotty, pal. Remember your sanitation project for the developing world? Toilets that cost more than a house? Genius." The sarcasm dripped, and the audience's laughter stung. Gates' hands balled into fists. "Those systems are saving lives," he said, his voice hoarse. "You're ridiculing people's dignity for laughs." "Dignity?" Colbert fired back, his voice rising. "Where's the dignity in projects that sound good on paper but fizzle out? You're not a savior, Bill. You're a guy with too much money and not enough accountability." The audience roared, the energy chaotic. Gates' face was a storm, his breathing heavy. He opened his mouth, then stopped, his eyes darting to the crowd, the cameras, Colbert's unrelenting grin. The room felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for the billionaire to either explode or crumble. His hand twitched toward his microphone, a gesture that sent a ripple of anticipation through the studio. What was he about to do? The late show studio was a pressure cooker, the air thick with the weight of Bill Gates' twitching hand hovering near his microphone. Stephen Colbert's grin was a razor, his eyes daring Gates to make a move. The audience, a mix of cheers and gasps, leaned forward, their energy feeding the chaos. Gates' face, flushed with rage, betrayed a man pushed to his limit. His breathing was ragged, his eyes flicking between Colbert's smug expression and the sea of faces watching his every move. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Then Gates snapped. "You think you've got me figured out, don't you?" Gates said, his voice low and venomous, trembling with barely contained fury. "You sit there, smug, tearing me down like I'm some cartoon villain. You don't know what it's like to carry the weight of trying to fix a broken world." The crowd quieted, his raw intensity commanding their attention. Colbert raised an eyebrow unfazed. "Wait, Bill? Sounds heavy. Maybe you should have stuck to lighter hobbies, like, say, Monopoly." The audience laughed, but it was nervous, sensing the breaking point. Gates' hand shot to his microphone, his fingers curling around it. "You're a coward, Stephen," he spat. "Hiding behind jokes while people like me take the real risks." Colbert leaned forward, his voice icy. "Risks? Like your food security projects? Throwing cash at fancy crops while farmers still starve? That's not risk. That's a rich guy's science fair project gone wrong." The crowd erupted, the jab landing like a gut punch. Gates' eyes blazed, his voice rising to a shout. "You have no idea what we've achieved. You cherry-pick failures and ignore the lives we've saved." "Lives saved?" Colbert shot back, his tone mocking. "Tell that to the people stuck with your half-baked ideas. Like your climate geoengineering schemes, spraying dust in the sky to block the sun? Sounds like you're playing God with a chemistry set." The audience's laughter was sharp, cutting through the tension. Gates slammed his hand on the armrest, the sound echoing in the studio. "You're a clown, Stephen. You mock what you can't comprehend because it's easier than facing your own irrelevance." The crowd gasped, the insult hitting hard. Colbert's smirk faltered for a split second, then returned, sharper than ever. "Irrelevant? Bill, I'm not the one whose legacy is a string of expensive flops. Your big ideas are like Windows Vista. Hyped up, overpriced, and nobody asked for them." The audience roared, the energy tipping into pandemonium. Gates' face contorted, his hand yanking at the microphone wire. "I'm done," he growled, ripping the mic from his jacket and hurling it to the floor with a clatter that silenced the room. The studio froze, the audience stunned as Gates stood, his chair scraping against the floor. "You're not worth my time," he said, his voice shaking with rage. "You're a parasite feeding off cheap shots." Colbert leaned back, his voice dripping with finality. "And you're a billionaire who can't buy results, Bill. Better luck with your next world-saving PowerPoint." The crowd exploded, some cheering, others booing, as Gates turned, his shoulders rigid, and stormed toward the stage exit. Security moved in, but Gates waved them off, his strides purposeful, his face a mask of fury and humiliation. The audience's noise swelled, a cacophony of shock and excitement, as he disappeared behind the curtain. Colbert, still seated, turned to the camera with a sly grin. "Well, folks, looks like Bill's got a new project, anger management." The crowd laughed, but the tension lingered, the moment seared into their minds. The cameras panned to the empty chair, the discarded microphone lying on the floor, a symbol of a confrontation that had spiraled beyond control. The show cut to commercial, but the image of Gates' exit was already burning through the internet, a viral wildfire that would define the night.